Identity does not only change when you make a big declaration. Sometimes identity changes when you keep one small agreement on a Tuesday afternoon when nobody is clapping. That sentence may look ordinary, but stay with it, because many people are waiting for one powerful moment to become a different person. One retreat, one prayer meeting, one coaching session, one New Year declaration, one painful heartbreak, one big decision after crying in the bathroom. Those moments can matter, yes, very much, but they are not always enough. A person can declare, I am done with this pattern, and then 3 days later, the old pattern returns like NEPA lights going and coming to test somebody's patience. Not because the declaration was fake, no. Not because the person was unserious, but because identity does not stabilize by noise. Identity stabilizes by evidence. Welcome to Inside the Design by Innocent Minds. In episode 16, we looked at the part of you that still does not feel safe. We saw that change may not fail because a person is unwilling. Sometimes, one part of the system still needs safety, pace, evidence, and leadership. Today in episode 17, we're going further. We're looking at how small decisions rebuild identity, not the dramatic decisions alone, small ones. The ones people overlook, the ones nobody posts online, the one that does not even look powerful until they are repeated. Let us be honest, many of us are trained to respect big things, big breakthroughs, big testimonies, big plans, big move, big money, big announcements, big transformation. But life is often rebuilt in small rooms. A person says no once and survives the guilt. That is evidence. Another person rests for an hour and the world does not collapse. That's evidence too. Someone speaks clearly without over-explaining and connection does not die. That is evidence. A leader delegates one task and realizes control is not the only way to be safe. That is evidence. A woman does not return the call that always drains her. A man does not apologize for something he did not do. A first daughter does not carry every family emergency like her name is written on the roof of the compound. Small, but not small. You understand? Because every time you act differently and survive it, the system learns something. It learns, maybe we can live another way. Maybe we can be loved without over-functioning. Maybe we can rest without disappearing. Maybe we can speak without being destroyed. Maybe we can reduce access without losing worth. Maybe the old structure is not the only instruction that there is. This is how identity begins to shift. Not by shouting, I am confident, but by taking one visible step and letting the body experience survival through it. Not only by saying, I value myself, but by refusing one arrangement that keeps insulting your value. Not by writing, I am disciplined, but by keeping one small promise when your mood is not cooperating. At Innocent Minds, we pay attention to what we call behavioral evidence. Very simple. What does your behavior keep proving to your system? Because your system is always learning from what you repeat. If you keep abandoning your own boundary, your system learns that boundary is not safe to trust. If you keep promising rest and then filling every free space, your system learns that rest is not truly allowed. If you keep saying, I want peace, but keep running to chaos, your system learns that chaos still has access. No shame. We are not here to flog people with analysis. Some of us have already collected enough cane from life, from school, from fathers, from uncles, from bosses, from church committees, from family expectations. And here we're not adding another cane. But we must tell the truth. And the truth is, your identity is listening to your repeated decisions, not your captions, not your declarations, not only your intentions, but your repeated decisions. Now, this is why small agreements matter. A small agreement is not a small thing. No, it is a brick. One brick may not look like a house, but remove bricks long enough and the whole building will not stand. Add bricks long enough and a structure begins to appear. Someone says, "This week I would not reply that message immediately from panic." That is a small agreement. Another person may say, "I will sleep before midnight twice this week." Sounds small, but if that person has been treating exhaustion like a medal, that small decision is serious work. A founder once said, "I will not solve every staff issue myself today." Small. But if control has been the only language of safety, then that one is not small. A parent says, "I will correct this child without using shame." That sounds small, but if shame was the language they inherited, it is a generational edit. So you see, some decisions are not small at all. They are like scissors, cutting old ropes quietly. The mistake many people make is that they despise the small decisions because it does not look dramatic. They say, "What is one small no going to do? What difference is one short rest going to make? What is one honest conversation going to do? What is one kept promise? What is one day without returning to that dream?" But that is how redesign begins. AOC, the architecture of creation, asks a simple but powerful question. What are we creating, and what structure can carry it? If you say you are creating a calmer life, where is the structure? If you say you are creating self-trust, where is the repeated evidence? If you say you are creating a new identity, what small decision will prove it today? Not next year, not after everything becomes perfect, but today. Because identity does not wait for perfect conditions, it forms inside repeated conditions. Let us use a Nigerian picture. You see those Abuja roads where construction is going on for months. At first, people complain. There's dust everywhere, traffic, the road diversion, Okada boys squeezing through impossible spaces. Everybody is angry, but little by little, something is being laid beneath the road. Drainage, concrete, layers, foundation, and soon the road opens. People begin to enjoy the smoothness and they forget all the dust that built it. You see, identity rebuild is just like that. At first, it feels inconvenient. You're stopping old traffic. You're creating diversion. Some people will be annoyed that they no longer have the same access. Some parts of you would complain. Old guilt will shout. Old fear will ask questions. Old shame will try to drag you back. But if you keep laying the structure, that road changes. So this is why we must stop asking only, "Do I feel different?" Rather, ask, "What evidence am I creating?" Because feelings may lag behind behavior. You may say no and still feel afraid. That does not mean that your no failed. You may rest and still feel guilty, but that does not mean that rest was wrong. You may speak clearly and still shake a little bit. that does not mean you are not growing. Sometimes the body is simply catching up with the new evidence. Growth is not always calm. Sometimes growth looks like trembling and still not going back. This one entered me differently because many people think courage means no fear. No. Sometimes courage is fear sitting in the passenger seat while you still drive to where you need to go. Fear may talk, let it talk, but it should not collect the steering every time. So how do we rebuild identity through small decisions? First, choose one identity area. I feel like we have been saying this on almost every episode. Pick one identity area, not 10, just one. It could be self-trust, rest, visibility, boundaries, money, communication, leadership, relationship, or discipline. Second, choose one small agreement. Make it so small that your system can practice it. Not perform it, but practice it. I will pause before replying. I will ask one clear question. I will rest for 30 minutes without guilt becoming my chairman. I will say no once without writing a full court affidavit. I will share one piece of work. I would not chase one person who has already shown me their pattern. Third, track the evidence. Not to punish yourself, but to witness yourself. Write it down. Today I kept the agreement. Today I missed it and returned. Today I felt guilty and still stood. Today I rested and survived. Today I spoke and I did not disappear. Fourth, return quickly when you miss it. This is very important. A missed moment is not the death of identity. It is feedback. So return, adjust, and rebuild. The new self becomes familiar through repetition. At first, it may feel strange. Even healthy things can feel strange when the system has not lived there long enough. But continue. One small evidence, then another, and before long, the system starts saying, "This is how we live now." That sentence is identity, not noise, not performance, but a quiet internal recognition that this is how we live now. Before we close, choose one area where you want your identity to change. Ask yourself, what have my repeated decisions been proving? What small agreements can I keep this week? What evidence would help my system believe the new identity? Where do I need to stop making big declarations and start creating small proof? Let these questions follow you. Do not rush. Sometimes one honest small decision can do what 100 emotional promises cannot do. If this episode helped you to see identity differently, share it with someone who keeps waiting for a big moment when their life may be asking for small evidence. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and leave one word in the comments: evidence. That word may remind someone that growth is not only about declaring a new self. It is about proving safety, trust, and direction in small moments. If this touched something deeper, send a message to the Innocent Minds team with the word evidence. We may ask a few questions to know whether a personal chat or a free 45-minute clarity conversation can help you see the pattern more clearly. No pressure, no public exposure, just one honest space to understand what needs structure. This has been Inside the Design by Innocent Minds, episode 17. How small decisions rebuild identity. Next, we will look at the hidden cost of performing strength. Because sometimes the strong version people praise is the same version quietly abandoning the person inside.